I've had so many requests to do this one, so let's do it. The myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was a famous musician from Greek mythology. In some versions he's the son of Apollo, in some versions he's the son of Calliope. Basically, Orpheus had divine skill in playing the lyre, and he was married to a woman called Eurydice. They were very happy together. But when the god Hymen came to bless their marriage, he prophesied that something would go wrong. There are a few versions about what happens to Eurydice shortly after their marriage. In one version, she's being chased by a man who she's just not into, obviously. Or she's dancing in a field with nymphs, and she either gets bitten by a snake or stung by a bee. Unfortunately, Eurydice dies and Orpheus is just plagued with grief. And he decides that he is going to descend into the underworld to go and retrieve his wife. If you've been following for a while, you might know that this process of a hero going into the underworld while still alive is called a catabasis. Anyway, Orpheus goes into the underworld. He charms the three-headed dog Cerberus with his lyre playing. Eventually, he gets an audience with Hades and Persephone, and he pleads his case. Persephone and Hades are so moved by his story that they decide that they are actually going to let him have his wife back. But with one condition, that Orpheus lead Eurydice out of the underworld with her walking behind him, and he is not allowed to look back at her to make sure that she's there and following him. At first, Orpheus is like, great, awesome, I will take my wife back to the real world. But as Orpheus is leading Eurydice out of the underworld, he begins to lose faith that she's behind him and following. She's kind of like a half-shade ghost kind of thing. She's not fully human yet. She's got no footsteps. And as they are about to reach the mortal realm, Orpheus looks back. And at this moment, Eurydice is sucked back into the underworld. Now, Orpheus is absolutely destroyed. He had his chance and he failed. And humans don't really get a second shot at going into the underworld. So he spends the rest of his life mourning, waiting for death, so that he can one day reunite with his wife in the underworld. Eventually, Orpheus actually has an altercation with a bunch of Maenads who tear him limb from limb, killing him. And according to Hesiod, he goes into the underworld, he reunites with Eurydice. Eventually, they both get to reincarnate. And Orpheus decides to get reincarnated as a swan or a goose because he doesn't want to be given birth to, because he gains a hatred of women after being killed by a band of women. So he would rather hatch from an egg. The more you know. Anyway, make sure you like and follow and tell me what you think in the comments.